The mallard is one of the most familiar birds on Earth. For many people, it is simply the duck in the park pond, a green-headed male, a brown-speckled female, a few ducklings following behind, and a soft ripple moving across the water. But that ordinary image hides a remarkably successful animal. The mallard is not common by accident. It is widespread because it can use many kinds of habitats, eat many kinds of food, tolerate people, gather in social groups, and reproduce in a way that gives its young a fast start. Its success stretches across temperate and subtropical regions of the Americas, Eurasia, and North Africa, and humans have introduced it even farther. To understand the mallard is to understand how one adaptable bird became both a symbol of everyday nature and, in some places, an ecological problem. Mallards belong to the dabbling ducks, a group defined by how they feed. Instead of diving deep underwater, mallards usually work the surface and shallow edges of wetlands. They tip forward with their tails raised, stretch their necks down, and use their bills to gather food from water, mud, and aquatic plants. This feeding style gives them access to ponds, marshes, slow rivers, canals, reservoirs, and flooded fields. They are not locked into one perfect habitat. If a wetland changes, or if humans reshape a landscape, a mallard can often still find something useful there. That flexibility is a major reason the species survives in places where more specialized waterbirds struggle. A mallard does not need a pristine wilderness. It needs water, food, cover, and enough room to respond to danger. The mallard's diet is broad, and that matters. It eats water plants, seeds, and small animals, combining plant-based feeding with opportunistic animal food when available. This makes the bird resilient through seasonal change. In one setting, it may rely heavily on aquatic vegetation. In another, it may take advantage of invertebrates or small creatures in the water. A narrow feeder can be vulnerable when its preferred food disappears, but a generalist has options. This does not mean mallards can eat anything safely. In city parks, people often feed ducks bread or processed scraps, but those foods do not match the bird's natural needs and can contribute to poor nutrition and dirty water. The mallard's true strength is not junk food tolerance. It is the ability to harvest real food from many shallow water environments. The male mallard, or drake, is famous for his glossy green head. In good light, it can look almost metallic, set off by the rest of his body and his bright bill. The female looks very different. She is mostly brown and speckled, a pattern that may seem plain until you imagine her sitting on a nest among reeds, grasses, and leaf litter. Her camouflage is practical protection. During nesting, being less visible can be the difference between a successful clutch and a failed one. Both sexes also carry a feature called the speculum, a white-bordered patch on the wing that can appear blue, purple, or iridescent. When the bird stretches, flies, or preens, this flash of color becomes a quick signature of the species. Mallards are medium-sized ducks, but among dabbling ducks they are often slightly heavier and more solidly built. Adults are typically about 50 to 65 centimeters long, with a wingspan of roughly 81 to 98 centimeters. Their body design is practical rather than extreme. They are buoyant enough to rest and feed on water, agile enough to move through vegetation, and capable of flight when they need to shift location or escape danger. Their bills are important tools, not just decorative features. A mallard uses its bill to handle water, mud, plant matter, and small food items. The whole bird is built around versatility. It is not the deepest diver or the fastest aerial hunter. It is a balanced wetland survivor. Mallards are also social birds. They often gather in groups or flocks of different sizes, especially where food is concentrated or outside the breeding season. Flocking changes the way the birds experience risk. A lone duck must notice every danger alone, but a group creates many watching eyes. If one bird reacts, others can respond quickly. Social life also helps mallards locate feeding areas and maintain contact in busy habitats. In a city pond, a gathering of mallards may look calm, but it is full of subtle interactions, spacing, calls, movement, competition, following, and courtship signals. The flock is not just a crowd. It is part of the mallard's survival system, allowing individuals to benefit from shared awareness while still competing for food and mates. Reproduction begins with the female and her nest. A mallard typically lays 8 to 13 eggs, usually creamy white to greenish buff and without spots. The eggs are laid on alternate days, so building the clutch takes time. Once incubation begins, it usually lasts about 27 to 28 days. During this period, the nest is vulnerable. Predators, flooding, disturbance, and exposure can all end the attempt. This is where the female's brown speckled plumage becomes essential. She can sit low and still, blending into vegetation while the eggs develop beneath her. The male's bright colors may be famous, but the female's hidden work is the center of reproduction. Without concealment and patience, the next generation never reaches the water. When mallard ducklings hatch, they are not helpless in the way many baby birds are. They are precocial, meaning they emerge covered in down, alert, mobile, and able to swim almost immediately. This is why ducklings can leave the nest quickly and follow their mother to water. That ability is adorable to watch, but it is also a serious survival strategy. A nest becomes dangerous once it is discovered, and staying there too long can attract predators. Still, swimming does not mean independence. The ducklings rely on the female for warmth, guidance, alarm signals, and access to safer feeding areas. They take around 50 to 60 days to fledge, developing the flight ability that finally lets them escape many threats by air. One reason mallards seem so familiar is that they do well around people. They can live in urban parks, suburban ponds, golf courses, reservoirs, drainage basins, and ornamental lakes. Many birds decline when wetlands are modified, but mallards often move into the new water bodies humans create. They tolerate close human presence better than many species, and they can use small fragments of habitat if the basic resources are there. This makes them a visible part of everyday urban wildlife. But city life is not automatically easy. Pollution, poor food from human feeding, crowding, and disease can all affect them. The mallard's urban success is not proof that cities are ideal wildlife habitat. It shows that this particular bird is unusually good at making imperfect places work. The mallard's history is also tied to domestic ducks. Most domestic duck breeds descend largely from mallards, shaped by human selection over generations for size, behavior, egg production, meat, color, and other traits. That connection means the boundary between wild and domestic ducks is not always clean. Domestic ducks can escape or be released, forming feral populations. These birds may then breed with wild mallards. When domestic genes enter wild populations, the result is genetic pollution, a blending of naturally evolved wild gene pools with traits shaped by human breeding. To a casual observer, the ducks may still look ordinary. Genetically, however, the population can become a mixture of wild, domestic, and feral ancestry. Hybridisation is one of the most serious issues connected to mallards. Because mallards can interbreed with closely related wild ducks and produce fertile offspring, their genes can spread into indigenous duck populations. This is especially concerning where mallards have been introduced outside their native range, or where feral mallard-type ducks are common. The danger is not always a sudden disappearance of native birds. Instead, it can be a slow genetic merging. Over generations, a local duck species may lose its distinct identity as more hybrids enter the breeding population. This kind of extinction is quiet. The birds may still be present on the water, but the unique gene pool that made them a separate species can be weakened or erased. Globally, the mallard is not in trouble. It is considered a species of least concern by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Its range is large, its population is secure in many places, and it adapts well to human-altered landscapes. But conservation status can hide complexity. A species can be safe worldwide and still be invasive or harmful in particular regions. Mallards can compete with more sensitive waterfowl, crowd urban waters, and contribute to hybridisation with native ducks. This makes them a powerful example of how ecological impact depends on context. The mallard is not bad because it succeeds. It is simply so successful that, when placed in the wrong setting, its strengths can become pressures on other species. So the mallard is much more than a background bird. It is a wetland generalist, a city survivor, a social flocking species, a parent of fast-moving ducklings, and the ancestor of most domestic ducks. Its green-headed males and camouflaged females represent different survival strategies within the same species. Its broad diet and shallow water feeding allow it to use habitats from wild marshes to artificial ponds. And its willingness to breed with related ducks makes it both biologically successful and ecologically complicated. The next time a mallard glides across a pond, it is worth seeing more than a familiar duck. You are looking at one of nature's great adapters, common, resilient, beautiful, and powerful enough to reshape the world around it. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.